Okay, so just first of all, I guess just what have you noticed in your classroom after implementing story champs and focusing in on that narrative writing piece?
So I've noticed a lot, especially in the area of just their like oral retelling, the expansion of language, using because to tell why. They're starting to use like they're starting to use the tell me when. So like one day or and then or after. So those words that are telling me that they're starting to understand like the process of the story
Mhm.
orally. And then um they've their writing expansion has just like blown up. So it was just, the growth from the beginning to the end was just tremendous. Super exciting to see.
They did so awesome. Oh, I love looking at their writing samples. It's seriously just like a shining star of how awesome they are.
Yes. Yeah, it was awesome.
Do you have any like specific stories or anything that really surprised you or really excited you that you saw from any of your students?
Yes. Um, so I think one of the biggest things was even not just necessarily one student in particular, but just their confidence in writing overall. Like when we did the beginning assessment piece, and we it's not like we hadn't been writing all year long. It was just like a lot of it was still guided and like kind of holding their hand at the time still. But I mean, the confidence that they have now with writing, like they're working on an opinion piece about spring right now. And like they're, they wrote for like, I don't know, half an hour, and they're writing. Like some of
Uh-huh.
it might not be right, but they're writing. Like they don't sit there with just like staring around the room, or they know like, oh yeah, like I can sound this word out, or I'm going to use because so I can tell someone why, like this is the reason I like spring. And so just between like their narrative story that they wrote and on their own, so they did the rough draft on their own. Just they came up with the whole storyline, plot line, just their confidence in the narrative writing piece, but now it's transferring to like the opinion writing, and they're excited about it instead of like, well, I don't know how to do that. Like it's
Yeah.
just the confidence overall is just, that's one of the things I'm most excited about, is they feel that they can do it now.
Yeah. Big difference when we went and like a lot of them were in tears and it like one word or maybe just a picture. And then all of a sudden it was like, okay, we're gonna have to cut you guys off so you could go to lunch. It was so exciting.
Yes. Yeah.
Um, I know you guys, Melissa said you guys purchased or you're purchasing kits for next year. That's so
We
exciting.
have them. We've got them all
Got
ready
them.
for all of kindergarten.
Awesome.
Yes.
And I don't let me forget, I have a list of some webinars I could send you guys to for some training. Like they're
Okay.
free, they're, to help with that training piece too, if
Yep.
thinking about that more widely. But knowing you guys are going to do it next year, is there anything that you would do differently, or that you'd want to change thinking about how we implemented it?
Well, I'm just excited to start it right off at the beginning of the year. Like I it was it'll just be crazy, I think, for me to see where those kids next year end up at the end of the year with their writing and their confidence and their oral retell and using those words. One of the things that I know for sure that I'm going to do is that I didn't get done this year was to find a space so we can put up like the sparkle words. I know I was talking about like when they're using those just in everyday common language, like if you hear one, like put a sticker on the sparkle word or whatever, just to get them to start using that language just more when we're talking. And I have a couple who are like, if they hear it again, they're like, oh yeah, I remember what that means. Like that means, like one of the words was immaculate. And they're like, this room is really clean. Like, what's that word that means really clean from the story? So
Oh
like
my gosh.
we're like, I've had a student go home and he told his parents, like, our house is a calamity. So I'm hoping to get that started because I think that like they love those words. It's just like giving them more encouragement of like, okay, like, oh yeah, we did use that word, or here's another time we could use those words, and seeing them, which will remind me to like push that too, just a little bit more.
That's awesome. And you don't see very many kindergartners using the words calamity and immaculate.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Oh
Oh,
my
I
gosh.
love
Yeah.
it.
So that'll be fun, I think.
Is there anything else that you'd want to share just about your experience either with Story Champs, with the writing, or with the pilot?
I mean, I can't praise it enough. Like it was so good. And I just I hadn't had like a curriculum before where it kind of like gave me everything. Like the stories are there, the icons are there, it's online. You have like manipulatives with it. So I mean it's super user friendly. Um, between like for myself, the kids, I could set it up as centers. So they were able to do centers on their own and put the pictures in order, retell those stories. Um, they love checking each other. So like to, you know, like teaching them like, oh yeah, actually this card's not in the right order. So let's switch it around, or you forgot to tell this part. I mean, there's so many different components of story champs that like just pulls in all different types of learners into it.
And
But
what good social emotional learning for them to have to make those connections with each other and like check each other, but do it in a kind, friendly way. That's so
yes,
awesome.
yep. And we modeled that like, oh, okay, so I made a mistake. How could you do that? And yeah, and they in those types of situations, that's where they like work extra hard to make sure that they're like, oh, I see this isn't in the right spot, you know, or so yeah, I mean, it's just I was super excited by like week 2 of it all when I was like, big things are gonna happen.
Well, that's what I love too, like knowing how busy teachers are. It feels like something that you could just pick up and start doing, and that it's not adding to your plate, but it's enhancing what the kids are doing so much.
Yes. Yeah, because like I said, I mean, I thought I was doing like good things before, but this just like I didn't have to search for stuff. It's all right there. And like I said, once they kind of get like the narrative writing down, it just carries over into the other areas of writing because they now have the confidence like, oh yeah, I can do this. I know how to do this.